Joining the conversation, author and columnist Joe Klein. Great to have you with us, Joe. You know, it's so interesting. We've been hearing over the past several months that Ron DeSantis has collapsed. He can't win, et cetera, et cetera. I was thinking this weekend, as DeSantis was going across Iowa, hasn't even announced yet, of a time in the summer of 2007 where I was about to leave Pensacola in my parents' house. And I was walking out the door because everybody had said, as you remember, McCain's campaign was over. He was firing everybody. Giuliani was going to win. My dad turns to me and he goes, "Don't forget McCain. He's going to come back and win the nomination." I was like, yeah, right, Dad, right. I mean, it's so early, and yet people are already trying to figure out, who's going to win next year. I mean, we still have a really long way to go, don't we?
Oh, it has just barely begun, but I think that a lot of the reason why we're so focused on this now is because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump makes this an immediate problem every time he opens his mouth. And the big problem for us in the media with dealing with Trump is that we haven't really quite figured out how to do it yet. He still has us. We haven't laid a glove on him.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Obviously, CNN came under fierce criticism after the town hall meeting. But since that time, you've had Jack Schaefer at Politico saying, "Hey, just stop whining. We've got to see this guy." You've written a column that I'm going to read in a second saying the same thing. Also, Maureen Dowd's latest column for the New York Times is titled "No Playing Ostrich with Trump." And in it, Maureen says this: "The town hall was enlightening and frightening, but we needed that reminder to be on full alert because Trump is not just unhinged and dangerous extremist. He is also a cunning and dominating insurgent. The argument that the media should ignore Trump and keep him under a bushel basket is ridiculous. You can't extinguish Trump by not talking to him. He's always going to find a platform. President Biden needs to see what he's up against. There are only so many times Biden can say, 'Come on, man,' in a debate. Biden's team has been blithely underestimating the opponent. That's something Jen Psaki suggested earlier today. The cascading indictments allow Trump to play the guilt-dipped martyr on an even larger scale. The task is to challenge Trump and expose him, not to put our fingers in our ears and sing la la la." And Joe, it's interesting. I'm going to read part of your excellent column in a minute. But it seems to me we have the criticism followed by the false choice, which was you can either hide your head in the sand or have events like the CNN town hall meeting. You say there's a middle ground. What is it?
Well, I think we have to be a lot smarter about how we handle this and maybe a lot less politically correct. Caitlin Collins is an excellent journalist, but it was like having Donald Trump interviewed by his daughter. I think that would be much more psychologically interesting if we had a father figure, because as you know, Joe, Fred Trump was the most important figure in Donald Trump's life, and he was an authoritarian. He was a tough guy. And, we need to have someone interviewing Trump, and we need to be more authoritative when we interview him. We need to be able to say things like, you can't really believe that, can you? No one's done that yet. No one's done that in a long time. And I think that I was critical of CNN in the piece that I wrote, but I could be equally critical of the other networks as well. In a way, the guy who really knew how to do this was Roger Ailes. And if you look at the debates that Fox staged back in the Ailes days, the anchors, people like Chris Wallace, people like Megyn Kelly, were really well prepared. And they took heavy bites out of Trump's butt.
Yeah, you talked about Megyn Kelly and Chris Wallace in that first debate. He also talked about Gwen Ifill being somebody that sort of person. Also at CNN, Jake Tapper and others. So
Tim Russert.
Jonathan. And well, of course, yeah, and of course, Tim Russert, Tom Brokaw, people like that. Even we're talking about CNN. Jamie Gangel, a former NBC legend who's now over at CNN. Jonathan, a lot of different choices, but again, as Joe Klein wrote, the most curious part, and perhaps the greatest underperformer in that debate, in that town hall meeting, was the audience itself.
Yeah, no question. As we discussed at length last week, that audience packed with Republicans, almost all Trump supporters who voted for him in 2020. Let's read a little more on this from Joe's column on Substack, asking this question: where is Trump's daddy? Quote, "It is interesting to speculate what might happen to Trump if he were interviewed by one of the old-fashioned magisterial anchors or by his father. Fred Trump was a paternal authoritarian. Donald Trump remains, at the age of 76, a petulant child. He needs to be treated like one. He needs to face the occasional question tinged with mockery, with disdain. You can't really believe that, can you? Go to your room. Most important, there needs to be a prevailing air of sobriety and authority, and, dare I say, also sanity and balance, real insight and analysis, rather than the constant parroting of inane conventionality. America is in a jittery state. The media have been making it worse. Fox with intent, CNN with inanity. There is a real need for a steady hand right now. There is a need for more carefully considered events than the Trump town hall. There has to be a niche for smart. So, Joe Klein, you just lay out there why this Trump town hall was so flawed. You also just listed some interviewers who you think would be well suited for the task. We could mention Chris Wallace, who tormented Trump at Fox, is now actually at CNN. But beyond the moderator and the venue, just how should the media be approaching what is a new challenge here? We've been grappling with Trump for a long time, but now he is an insurrectionist candidate for president.
Well, I think the television media have been grappling with the same problem since the 1990s, when competition really entered the market. Sure. When people began, when CNN had a face-off. CNN, when Ted Turner invented it, was kind of staid and reliable, almost a little boring. In the 1990s, news became entertainment because the networks were fighting for audiences. I think that now that we have an existential threat to our democracy in Donald Trump, and also, this tremendous hyper-partisanship that we in the media have encouraged in a way, it's time to turn back toward a more sober and authoritarian, not authoritarian, but authoritative sort of presentation in news. We have to be serious. Doesn't mean we can't be fun, but we have to be more serious, and we have to look very carefully at how we approach Donald Trump on air, who interviews him, what is asked. I mean, I talked about Roger Ailes before. Roger Ailes created the first town meetings for Richard Nixon, and he insisted that there be negative questions. Nixon liked it too. We really need to think about this hard in the media, because we're the intermediaries between Donald Trump and the country, and we're the intermediaries between this country remaining a democracy or becoming an illiberal authoritarian state.
I want to ask you, Joe, just about the tactics, because the sober and just kind of down the middle journalism is something a lot of people call for, or they say they want. I think on some level, not successfully, that's what CNN was attempting to do in that town hall, and it didn't work because they treated Trump like a normal person. Mm-hmm. So when you think about tactics, or the next town hall, or the next interview, do you think they should be calling him out in the moment? Should they be kind of pushing back on him in the moment in something more aggressive than fact-checking? Or how do you think the next journalist who interviews him should approach it? Well,
first of all, this is nothing against Caitlin Collins. She has been a really tough White House correspondent who didn't back down from Trump in this. But we have to think about more carefully about the kind of questions we ask him. We have to be prepared when he lies, not to say, well, you said, but to show a clip of him saying the exact opposite. We have to be prepared, and we have to be very candid about the threat that this guy poses. You can't just say he lied, he lied, he lied, he lied. We're talking about something far more important here. We're talking about the nature of our democracy. And I got to say, I've spent a lot of time traveling across the country, did a lot of road trips when I was working for Time magazine. And believe it or not, there is a real consensus about most issues in this country. There's an extreme on the right, there's an extreme on the left. We in the media play to the loudest and most intemperate voices. We have to be the representatives of the vast majority of Americans who are sick of this.